I'll even say, because it's an angle no one ever brings up, one angle no one bothers to point out as to why Outsiders also fell off is, I don't know why, but bizarrely, Jame always liked Dust 2 as a map, by the way, and they didn't have a very big map pool in Outsiders. Well, that was the map after the major got replaced by Anubis, didn't it? And if you look, Anubis has gone the classic route, Semmler. This is how you know no one actually thinks any of the recent Valve maps are good. They all become the least played map the second they're in the pool. Well, the problem is, if you remember, at that first blast, Anubis looked all right to play. Everyone thought, oh, maybe this will get in the mix. It hasn't. It's a map that no one everyone still pushes it to the back of the veto. You try to get the other team to veto it, and then you don't play it. People very rarely pick into it. So I do think the map pool switching probably also made Outsiders worse, because I think it's made everyone worse, mate. I think the map pool is also part of why CS isn't in the best spot right now. Because think about it, every time you're in a veto, you've got Anubis, Vertigo, and Ancient. That's half the fucking map pool almost. Like everyone's going to maps they don't like at that point. Like, that's why you see so much Ancient again, and that map fucking sucks, mate.
I mean, it really leaves you something. I mean, I'm looking at actually the map stats right now for Group A or RMRA, Europe RMRA, and Ancient got played 16 times. Runner-up was Vertigo with 11. It's like, holy shit. I mean, these are actually my least two. Like, this may also contribute to why I'm not like watching every match, because it's just like, dude, I don't want to watch Ancient all day. I don't want to watch Vertigo all day. Pay me and I will. But like, if I'm just watching for my own sake, I mean, unless it's two big teams and there's a lot on the line, like, I just don't want to watch Ancient and Vertigo. I fucking hate those maps.
It's why one of my points I made online when everyone was so enamored with Valve and CS2 and bragging, and all those streamers who got to go to the HQ talking about how amazing Valve devs are. It's like, are you guys ever going to ask them if we're going to get good maps? Like, you're literally there, bro. Half the map pool shit. You're literally sat there, and then they're just telling you random stuff, by the way. Like, look at this shiny pendant, though. Look. Distracting you, like, with some fucking smoke. Meanwhile, the map is fundamentally shit that you're playing on. Like, what are you... Here's the joke, mate. Shall I tell you what will blow people's minds? Because it just shows how dumb CS fans are. Semmler, do you know the biggest complaint about CS2? Have you heard it?
Let's see. 64 tick servers.
No, there's only one map, Dust 2. The map you don't even have in CSGO anymore. Valve, you're so dumb, it's unreal. That's guys, how's no one pointed out that the only map you can play in CS2 was the one that's not even in CSGO anymore? Like, what is this? What is this? That just shows me, whenever there's something new, what I had to learn a long time ago is the reason why this is a young man's business is because novelty just trumps everything else. Haven't you noticed that? Like, you don't, by the way, it's actually a wider picture about the world, but if you can just convince people, like, this is the new thing, they don't really need to, like, it doesn't have to make sense. They just want to be part of I'm on the cutting edge. This is progress. So, like, even though, like, there's plenty of things about CS2 that, like I say, are mad lacking. Like, for example, why does no one bother complaining about basic stuff? Like, I'd turn to a Valve dev at some point if I was in the Valve HQ somewhere and go, are you ever going to fix this economy thing where if I lose the CT pistol, it fucks the whole out? No one ever brings that up, you notice. They're all just sat there going, I can just imagine these fucking streamers and former washed pros all sat there like, eating like fucking almond joys, like, all right, brilliant. Oh, the smokes and everything. Oh, sick. Can I be the one who presses the button? Because, mate, and that's a callback if people don't know, because they made a massive deal when they launched the fucking skins that it was like Valve that it was fucking Nip that pressed the button. If you remember, they made that whole thing about like, oh, pressing it, like, and they made such a big furore. It obviously meant nothing, did it? Like, whatever.
I know, right? I know, dude. I mean, the thing is, now I think it's pretty clear that this is what was it? This is what I was talking about on stream the other day, actually. In that it's pretty clear that if you're still working mainstream CSGO, you pretty much are just going to, that's all you want to do. You're not going to be interested in doing anything or saying anything that would harm your ability to cast or work a broadcast for CSGO. So the idea that you would go to Seattle and have anything, or Bellevue, you know, and have anything to say, criticize the Valve devs in any way, like, none of that is. I don't know.
If you just look at the lineups now, Semmler, there are none of the people like me, you, and Richard. And, like, where are they? Like, there's no one. Dude, even Andis is barely in CSGO now. Like that, you're right. There's no one left who actually will critique this shit. Because here's the real problem. I'll just throw it out there. The most obvious two people who actually can do this, and in their nature, this is exactly who they are as people, is fucking Yanko and Sponge. And the problem is this. Yanko, if it really annoys him, might make a comment on it. But Sponge, if you notice, for whatever reason, just knows what way his bread's buttered. He's been this way with ESL the whole time. And he just clearly makes in his brain the choice of, like, I don't want to get into trouble talking about this topic. He If people have never watched HL TV Confirmed, the real reason I don't watch that show isn't what I joke about with like Professor and Striker being empty chair. Like, yeah, they're boring. The real problem is I don't get real Sponge on there. That's why I don't watch it personally. If Sponge actually gave like his real fucking opinions that he either gives in a green room or he gives some of them on the Talking Cat one, I would watch that show all the time. He's a really interesting analyst, but even he sort of knows like you don't want to upset. Essentially, like what we're saying is, I can boil it down to the one phrase, the dreaded phrase. They all just don't want to rock the boat. Whereas the whole premise of mine was I was fucking kayak whitewater rafting this motherfucker. And then they went, Thorin, it's just a placid lake, please. No,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
You were in there jumping up and down in the boat to make bigger and bigger waves in the pool.
Yeah. I've got a dust with like a life preserver behind me. Please, I can't even swim.
I still remember that fucking, what was it, DreamHack Winter 2014, that meeting where you're just chewing the devs out because of the Titan fiasco.
Oh, no.
Oh, dude, the devs did not know what to do.
Here's the thing. One, yeah. By the way, too, one, that's where you know those devs had never like they were like celebrities. If you don't get it, guys, that had obviously been like catered to their whole life and handled, and somehow someone had just let them in a room with someone like that, no, like like let's say like press access or like credentials, and just like asking them raw shit. And then secondly, the best thing of all in that whole meeting was that as I left the room, you'd think right, it would be Valve who'd say like, right, get that guy out and don't ever bring him in again. It was actually me. I left the room. And I turned to Greycard from DreamHack and I just said, don't ever invite me to one of these fucking stupid meetings if they're here again. And I just left the room like a fucking G. Like, now, here's the thing. I will say, Semmler, that was just for chronology's purpose. The first, no, that was the DreamHack Winter 2014, of course. So like that was one where I'd already started being a bit spicy, to be fair. So it wasn't like that was my first major, but I agree. Like what that's just taught me is what I've known the whole time, which is game devs just live in like they are sort of like, they're like the fucking prince character in like the Secret Garden, that like little rich boy who's like sequestered from the world and he's just spoiled and stuff. Like they don't really live in reality. They don't really know like all the real world of like what gamers are like and stuff, mate. That's why they have and sadly, all the pros who meet them just kiss their ass all day long, mate. It's like, I'm even talking about pros. Like the joke is people like Simple will be mad spicy about analysts. They'll never say shit to a CSGO dev, mate. They just tell them how brilliant they are. It's ridiculous. All the pros do it. I've seen it.
The weird thing when you're interacting with devs, though, particularly the Valve devs, it's really fascinating because they're basically just running experiments on you the entire time and just toying with you. Every conversation that you have with them, it's not the actual conversation that you think you're having. What they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out some point that they've already determined that they need to figure out, and so they're like slowly. It was one of those where, for example, they asked the pros, it's like, what would you rather, what do you think having, like, what was it? What do you think Source 2 would fix, and they were saying, the pros were like, oh, it better hit reg or something like that. And so the devs were like, oh yeah, we're just going to work on the models instead. Then we'll fix the hit reg or we'll fix the models. And that's like the workaround, what they eventually get to. But the devs, I mean, the weird thing that's fascinating is because they've really managed to do a good job in the sense that they can't, by maintaining, like you say, this separation from the community and only ever rarely, if ever, interacting with the community directly, they've created this environment where the community just, no matter if it's the slightest thing that Valve does, the community just go completely overboard because they're so starved for interaction from the Valve devs that anything the Valve devs do and the community are just like, oh, Valve's the best. And everything's the best. And it just all goes to the best, and like that's the feel that you get from that. Whereas on the other side of the thing, when we were talking about this, where the other devs that are now slaves to their community, i.e., Riot or Blizzard, where it's the other side of the equation where they over interact with the community and are now basically beholden to the community in every way. It's interesting to see like how both of those, how you have two approaches to dealing with the community, and then a question of like which one is best, which one do you think is best? I don't know though. Like the Valve one seems pretty. Seems better, but just because then you aren't beholden to the community, at least if you're Valve. You can just kind of do your thing, and that gives you a level of autonomy where you're not exactly worried so much. And clearly the community is going to keep coming back to you because the game keeps growing, so they're not necessarily worried in that sense either. They never had a Tracer's ass fiasco, I guess. That's a reference. I feel like that was one of the big turning points for Blizzard.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.